Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jasmine and today I'll be doing a quick JavaScript tutorial for you guys in 5 minutes. And what JavaScript is it's a really popular language that goes along really well with HTML and CSS and is commonly used when developing websites. So I think it is a really useful programming language for you guys to learn. So I'm excited to show you a quick and simple tutorial, and we're going to be making something really fun to help us learn it today. So what we are creating today is a virtual menu that will change depending on what time of the day it is. So if it is in the morning, it will show breakfast items. If it is lunchtime, it will show lunch items. And if it is evening, it will show dinner items. So we want to be able to make code that will change the menu items based on what time it is or what time we give it. So let's get started. The first thing that we are going to do is go to codepen.io. Once you're at this webpage, you will create a new pen. So you would click on pen and a new project would open. So the first thing that I'm going to show you guys is how to make a comment. What a comment is it doesn't actually get run with your code, but it's kind of just a little note to yourself about what your code is about so you don't forget it after you write a bunch of code in the same file. So let's just try it out. Do 2 dashes, and this is grayed out, so it just means that it's a comment. You can write whatever, it won't get run. And let's just say, what is on the menu today? So basically just a little reminder about what this code is all about. Now that we have got a comment, the next thing I'm going to show you guys is how to make a variable. So what a variable is, it is basically something that you would attach a value to it. So it could be literally anything. It could be a string, which is a collection of characters, words, or sentences, or it could be integers, it could be numbers, it could really be anything that you set the value to. So let's just try one for example. Let's set a variable called name, and we're going to set it to my name, Jasmine. So the text in yellow is basically signaling to the computer what this is, and in our case it is a variable, so we put var. The blue text is the name of the variable, so it doesn't have to be name. We can name it something like first name. It could be anything. We just have to give it a name so we can use it later on. And the Jasmine part, which is in green, is basically the value that we're attaching to the variable first name. So we don't really need this variable in our project, but we do need 2 other variables, which is variable noon, and we need a variable called evening, so that we're able to understand what time it is so that we can show different items on our menu. So for our noon variable, let's set a value of 12, and for our evening one, let's set a value of 18, running on the 20. Now let's give some items to our menu because right now it's looking a little bit empty. So let's give it a variable called breakfast and a variable called lunch and a variable for dinner. So not only can we put integers and words inside these variables, but we can also set these variables to an array. Now what an array is basically a list of different things. So let's just try one right now. What you signal to the computer that is an array is that you put it inside these square brackets, and then for each element in the array, you would put a comma in between them. So let's get started with avocado toast. I'm going to put these inside quotation marks because we need to signal that these are strings and not something random like code. And fruit, orange juice. Okay, and for the lunch one, we can put sandwich, soup, salad, and dinner, let's do steak, mashed potatoes. Next, we will be creating a function. So what a function is basically a way for us to keep track of what blocks of code we are running. So inside a function, we will be putting lines of code inside so that when we run this function, no other code outside of the ones in this block will be run. This is a good way to keep things organized. So let's start by creating a function called what time, what menu. And inside these quotation blocks is what we will put our code inside when we run this function. So inside this function, let's start by creating something called a prompt. So, have you guys ever been on a website and a pop-up window appeared? Yeah, so that is probably a prompt. How we make one ourselves is by using the words prompt, and we will use these brackets, and inside of it we can ask the question, and there will be an input box for the user to type the answer in. So let's say, what time is it now? 24-hour clock. And let's set it to a variable called time. So now we will be able to know what time it is according to the user. Next, I'm going to be introducing you guys to the concept of conditionals. So when you were young, has your parents ever used the thing like, oh, if you don't finish your dinner, you won't get dessert? Yeah, that's an example of a conditional. So let's try doing this in our code today. If time is less than noon, that means it is morning and something will happen. Otherwise, else if time is less than evening, but it is greater than noon, something else will happen. Otherwise, it is evening and something else will happen. So now that we have our conditionals in place, we now have to add code so that for each possibility, we have code that is running. So for the first one, if time is less than noon, that means we want to print out all the items on our breakfast menu. So how we do this is we'll use console.log, which means that it will print whatever is in these brackets to our console so we can actually see what is happening. So let's start by printing out the breakfast menu. And remember, we already set the value of breakfast up here so that it will include things like avocado toast, etc. And if time is less than evening but greater than noon, that means it is lunchtime, and we will be printing out the lunch menu. And otherwise, we know it was evening, so we will be printing out the dinner menu. And there we go. Now let's figure out a way to run our function. So how we can do this is by creating a button on the HTML side. So if you guys remember how HTML tags work, we do something like button and we put the text, let's say show menu inside, then we close the HTML tag, and there we go. We see that there's a button called show menu. It doesn't do anything right now because we haven't set any actions to it. Let's do something called button on click equals, and let's put our function what time, what menu inside. Now what this does is basically setting an action to it so that if the event, when we click on it, it will start running this function what time, what menu on our JavaScript side, and all this code inside will be able to run for us. So let's try it. Let's click on show menu. Now we see this prompt pop up. What time is it now? Let's say right now it is about 1 p.m. so 13. And on the console, we see that it's lunchtime. Let's try it again. Show menu, let's say it is 8 a.m. There you go, I have the breakfast menu. And let's say it is 8 p.m. so that would actually be, I think, 20. And now we have the dinner menu. So congratulations to guys, you just learned JavaScript in a couple of minutes. I'm really proud of you. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you like these tutorials, and I'll see you next time. Bye.